In this video, I want to come back to a purification practice to address false beliefs called philosophical midwifery. I've done a number of videos on this topic already. There are many aspects to how false beliefs are embraced, how they affect us, and how we can free ourselves of these limiting self-images. In this system, these limiting self-images are called pathologos, which literally means a sick belief. In past videos, I talked about how to recognize that you have a pathologos problem, how pathologos are transmitted, and how to rid yourself of them. I will link a playlist. But today I want to go more deeply into the debilitating effects of pathologos. Now, to be clear, we all have pathologos. This is inevitable, no matter how happy our home life had been. Picking up family pathologos, or the pathologos of whoever our caretakers were in childhood, is an unavoidable part of the human experience. There is one important feature of pathologos that is often misunderstood or it's ignored altogether. This is the role of amnesia. When a family pathologos is transmitted, it is because the child accepts the adult's implied version of reality. But in that acceptance, the child gives up his or her own way of being. Dr. Pierre Grimes describes this in his book, Philosophical Midwifery. In accepting the conclusion, in assuming it is true, the child's own version of reality is assumed to be profoundly flawed. And with that decision, the parental authority's views gain a priority over all else. As the adult's views gain authority, the child's views, in comparison, get devalued. The child's views get pushed away and hidden out of sight. As we take on pathologos, then, we little by little lose sight of ourselves. Plato never directly deals with this dynamic in any of his dialogues, but he did seem to have recognized these effects. His dialogue Republic sets up a fictitious city-state as an analogy to the soul. I have discussed this analogy in other videos. What I want to address here is Socrates' discussion about imitation in poetry. He defines imitation as likening oneself to another in speech or bodily bearing. This is precisely what happens when we take on a pathologos. We adopt the beliefs of our parental figure, and this manifests in our words and mannerisms. We have, in effect, concealed who we truly are in exchange for this imitation. Socrates contrasts the imitator with what he calls pure narration. In pure narration, one would conceal himself nowhere. This is the state of mind we are aiming to reclaim. We need to understand this forgetfulness that took hold of us back when we gave up our own version of reality. This forgetfulness is a natural result of choosing to live within the limitations of the self as defined by our families. Dr. Grimes calls this forgetfulness or amnesia the hallmark of a problem. Shadow work, such as philosophical midwifery, is so very powerful precisely because it allows us to remember our states of mind before we took on insecurities, doubts, or feelings of smallness or vulnerability. The pathologos compels us to accept an interpreted version of the past, and we then carry that interpretation into our current interactions in the world at large. That old family dynamic seems to repeat itself over and over wherever we go. If you are anything like I was before I found philosophical midwifery, perhaps you saw changing to a new school or a new job as a chance to start over. It will all be different this time, you tell yourself, only it turns out to be more of the same. What is going on here? It may happen that we are drawn to people who complement the dynamic that we adapted at home. But an even more insidious issue is our interpretation of situations that are actually quite different. Our distrust or our insecurities, for example, color our interpretation of people and situations going forward. So the problem is not the people around us. The problem is within. It is like the old saying, wherever you go, there you are. Says Dr. Grimes, the pathologos cannot function as the only reality for the believer unless there is an amnesia of the other world. When we get into this work of philosophical midwifery, we quickly discover that it can be a challenge to recall the exact moment a false belief was transmitted, a moment that we call a childhood transmission scene. Yet recalling such a scene is relatively mundane compared to the insights required to understand it, and so extract the meaning from it. One of the most difficult aspects is in acknowledging our own role in accepting the parental figure's perspective. Ultimately, we are responsible for our own state of mind. It was an understandable decision to make at that young age, so this is not a guilt game. It is simply a recognition of responsibility. To unravel that moment of decision and to discover its enduring significance upon us is the task of the dialectic. This is the discussion that we undertake in our exploration of these past scenes. What is important to remember here is that philosophical midwifery focuses on conclusions and on states of mind. We don't focus on behaviors or even the stated intentions of our parental figures. They are unaware of their own pathologos and of the roles and power dynamics they are playing out. Even the most loving of parents are acting in their own self-interest also, even if they don't see it. They are very effective at appearing as knowers and convincing us that we are just small children, too powerless to oppose them. Whether they use punishment or persuasion, they give the false the appearance of being reality. When this happens, the appearance that we accepted replaces the way we had thought before. To have a heavily interpreted past is to live in the shadows of pathologos beliefs. And as long as we reside in that realm, we forget ourselves. We walk away believing that this is just the way things are. Moving forward, we act out this belief, and we interpret others through this belief, all the while unaware that we have a distorted view of reality. This is the only reality we remember, and so it seems like it's the way things have always been. If we become parents ourselves, we will undoubtedly pass on the same point of view to our own children. Such is the human condition. But we can actively choose to break the cycle. Philosophical midwifery is a powerful tool in doing so. It helps us recognize the distortions in our thinking so that we can reclaim the clarity we had before family limitations were imposed on us. I would love for you to share your thoughts in the comments section. And if you found this helpful, please like the video and subscribe for more content like this. And as always, I thank you for watching.